I expect Dr. Wright, although I haven't asked him, spent his adolescence in his daddy's church doing what I did in my daddy's church, which was proving that I could raise hell better than any other kid in the congregation. I was a headache, and he probably was too. But I can't think of any better formation to become a preacher. Great preachers, like Dr. Wright, always raise hell. They unsettle us, they challenge us, they speak the truth when no one else does, they stand up for justice, they defy the privileged and the powerful on behalf of the oppressed. They know that the measure of our lives as individuals and as a nation is reflected in how we treat those who suffer and endure injustice. And they do not follow the expedient and the easy path. They leave that to others, to the careerists, the ambitious, the selfish. The Romans, who Dr. Wright correctly reminds us were white. It was Jesus who was a person of color. Don't like preachers any more today than they did 2,000 years ago. They seek every way possible to silence them, for the truth spoken by these preachers terrifies them. And when the dust settles on this period in human history, when we go back and look at who had moral courage and who did not, who stood up for justice and who did not, who spoke the truth no matter what the cost, all the detractors and critics of Dr. Wright, all those who betrayed him, will wither into moral insignificance.
One of the things I was very interested in, well, I guess the overriding thing in each of the chapters, Chris, is the structural problem that you put your finger on. Not, as you said, it's not just a polemic, it's not just a description, but for instance, starting with the Lakota children, to force them by Christian missionaries to speak English, to learn English, to do away with all of that superstition. In that chapter, you start with information we were sharing before we started the public presentation of how the guys in prison in New Jersey did not know certain things. In that chapter, for instance, you give such a wealth of information structurally showing how historically the promises that were broken to just in North America to the Native American people. Could you say some more about that? Because I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to you gave some numbers tonight in terms of those who were put on reservations or those who were left alive in Central, South, and North America, United States of America. But in terms of the legal things, like Michelle talks about legally,
yeah,
how a caste system has been created, legally what we did to the Native Americans.
Well, that becomes the mechanisms of repression, the law. So on the one hand, you have 400 treaties. Is this picking up? Yeah, on the one hand, you have 400 treaties that are signed between Washington and Native communities, and every single one is broken. And then, despite that, you create, through the judicial system, a process by which Native communities are, of course, originally corralled into what were called prisoner of war camps. Then they became tribal agencies, and then they became reservations. And I think the experience of what has happened in these sacrifice zones, whether it's on reservations, whether it's in places like Camden, New Jersey, or southern West Virginia or anywhere else, is that what our neighbor went through in biblical terms, who we turned our back on, is now being done to us. That we forgot about Native Americans, we forgot about African Americans, we forgot about poor white coal miners, we forgot about those people in our produce fields, and the very forces that oppressed and blighted and in many cases destroyed these communities have now been unleashed within the nation itself. Mm-hmm. So in essence, what they are creating is a kind of reservation for all of us, a culture of dependency. I mean, what the goal is to break the capacity for self-sufficiency and to destroy culture, to make sure you don't know who you are and you don't know where you came from.